When I accidentally stumbled upon a message on my wife's phone from someone I considered my closest friend, I still didn't understand how deep this abyss went. My name is Owen, I'm 42 years old, and I've been working at a Pittsburgh bank for nearly 20 years. My wife Krista is an English teacher at a local school. We've been together for 15 years, and I always thought our life was the perfect picture of the American dream. A cozy house in the suburbs, 2 children, stable jobs. But it turns out I was living in an illusion that someone carefully maintained for me. It all started 3 months ago when Jessica, Krista's friend from college, unexpectedly called me at work. Her voice was trembling, and I immediately sensed something was wrong. "Owen, we need to talk. In person. It's important." We met at a small coffee shop on the outskirts of town. Jessica looked confused, as if she didn't know where to begin. She twisted a paper napkin in her hands until she finally exhaled. "I saw Krista last week. With Joel. Your friend Joel." My heart seemed to stop. Joel had been my best friend since college. He's a project manager at a construction company, often came to our dinners, celebrated our children's birthdays with us. He was like part of our family. "What do you mean?" My throat constricted. They were at that new SBA complex by the river. Together. And it didn't look like a friendly meeting. I couldn't believe it. Didn't want to believe it. But Jessica wouldn't lie about something like this. She had no reason to destroy our life. Moreover, she seemed just as shocked as I should have been. The next few days I lived on autopilot. Went to work, talked with clients, returned home, had dinner with the family. But something inside had changed. I started observing. Not intrusively, but attentively. Krista behaved as always. Smiled, talked about her day, helped the kids with homework. But now I noticed little things. How she went to another room when making calls, how quickly she locked her screen when I entered. For 2 weeks I couldn't bring myself to take the next step. But then I saw an entry in her calendar. SBA 2 p.m. Saturday. This was my chance to learn the truth. On Saturday morning I said I was going to meet with colleagues. Took the car and drove to that SBA complex. Parked on the opposite side of the street, from where the entrance was clearly visible. My heart was beating so loudly it seemed audible throughout the entire neighborhood. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I saw Krista's familiar car. She parked and got out. Looked as always, jeans, light sweater, loose hair. Nothing special. She went inside. 5 minutes later, Joel's Jeep pulled up. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. He also went inside. I sat in the car for 3 hours. 3 damn hours, imagining what was happening in there. When they finally came out, first Krista, 10 minutes later Joel, their faces wore relaxed smiles. They weren't even trying to hide. That evening I said nothing. Just sat at dinner and watched my wife and mother of my children play the role of a caring spouse. And then I understood I needed a plan. The next day at work, I went into my office and made several important calls. First, I transferred most of our joint savings to a separate account opened only in my name. This was a legal move. I had earned most of the money, and in case of divorce, I had the right to protect it until the official division of property. Second, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but the best divorce attorney in Pittsburgh. Thomas Mackenzie was known for always winning his cases. His fee was insane, but I was ready to pay. "Tell me everything," he said during our first meeting. I told him. About Joel, about the SBA complex, about suspecting this had been going on for months, possibly years. Thomas listened, taking notes. "We need evidence," he finally said. "Photo, message, testimony. The more the better." But I didn't want to hire a private detective. I had to do this myself. The next 2 weeks I lived a double life. During the day, a caring husband and father. At night, reviewing Krista's credit card statements, checking her movement history through the shared location access app, which she obviously forgot to turn off. And the picture became clearer and clearer. They met regularly. Once a week, sometimes more often. Always at the same SBA complex. Sometimes at motels on the outskirts of town. Joel booked rooms in his name, paid with cash. But the biggest blow came when I accidentally found Krista's old phone in a box in the attic. She obviously forgot it there after buying a new one. I charged it and looked through the messages. The first message from Joel was dated 3 years ago. 3 years. All this time while I worked, built our family, planned our future, she was with my best friend. But the worst part wasn't that. In the correspondence were messages where they discussed me. Joked about my trustfulness. Joel wrote, "He's so naive, he doesn't notice anything." And Krista replied, "I know. Sometimes I even feel sorry for him." Sorry. She felt sorry for me while destroying our life. And then I understood. I don't just want a divorce. I want them both to understand what they did. The plan matured in my head gradually. I didn't want to simply present the evidence and leave. No, that would be too easy. Too predictable. Instead, I started acting differently. Became more attentive to Krista. Gave her flowers, invited her on dates, spent more time with the kids. She was surprised but gladly accepted the changes. Perhaps it was easier for her to live with guilt when I was a bad husband. At the same time, I continued gathering evidence. Photographed their cars near motels. Saved all statements. Copied correspondence. And then I organized a family dinner. Invited Joel with his wife Sarah, several other friends. Said I wanted to celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary. The dinner was perfect. Krista cooked her signature dishes. The kids ran around the house, laughing. Joel told jokes. Sarah discussed recent news with other guests. Everything was so normal, so family-like. When it was time for toasts, I stood up with a glass in my hand. I want to thank everyone who's here today, I began. 15 years ago, I married a woman I considered the love of my life. Over these years, we've been through a lot together. The birth of children, moves, joys, and trials. Krista smiled at me. She even wiped away a tear. A world-class actress. But you know what's most valuable in life? I continued. Real friends. Those you can rely on. Those who are always there. I turned to Joel. Joel, you've been my friend for over 20 years. I trusted you like no one else. His smile stiffened slightly. He sensed something was wrong. So tonight, on this special evening, I want to make an announcement. I paused. Krista and I are getting divorced. The silence was deafening. Krista turned pale. Joel froze with a glass in his hand. What? She finally uttered. I know about the SBA complex. About the motels. About everything. I pulled out a folder with documents. 3 years, Krista. 3 years you've been cheating on me with my best friend. Sarah turned sharply to Joel. What is he saying? This? Joel turned white. I have all the evidence, I continued calmly. Photos, messages, credit card statements. My lawyer has already prepared all the documents. I wanted to do this privately, but then I thought, why not let you feel what I felt? Humiliation. Pain. Betrayal in front of everyone. The guests began quietly dispersing. No one knew what to say. Sarah stood up and slapped Joel across the face, so hard the sound echoed throughout the house. We're done, she hissed through her teeth and left. Krista was crying. Owen, please let me explain. Explain what? That you felt sorry for me while sleeping with my friend? I read your messages, Krista. I know everything. The following months were difficult. The divorce, division of property, conversations with the children. But I stood my ground. The lawyer did his job flawlessly. We divided the property equally, as the law provides, but I protected my main savings. The most interesting part started afterward. Sarah divorced Joel, and he lost almost everything. The house, half the business, respect in society. His reputation in professional circles was destroyed. Krista also lost a lot. She was fired from school after the story spread around town. Small cities, even ones like Pittsburgh, remember scandals. And the most ironic thing, 3 months after the divorce, Krista and Joel got together. I heard they're living together in a cheap apartment on the outskirts. Without mutual friends, without respect, without the life they destroyed. They got each other, but it turned out this wasn't what they really wanted. Joel lost a successful business and status. Krista lost her career and respect. And most importantly, they lost that pleasure of the forbidden that fed their affair. When love is built on betrayal, it cannot last long. As for me, I got custody of the children in a joint parenting arrangement, though they spend most of their time with me. Moved to a new house, smaller but cozy. Started a new life. Sometimes I think, was it worth staging that scene at dinner? Wouldn't it have been better to part quietly? But then I remember those messages where they laughed at me, and I understand, they deserved every minute of that humiliation. Revenge isn't always bad. Sometimes it's just justice, served on a plate by candlelight. A year has passed since then. My children have adapted, though it was hard. They understand that Mom did something bad, but I never turned them against her. She's their mother, and they have the right to love her. As for me, I learned to trust again. Not immediately, not easily. But life goes on. And sometimes the best way to get revenge is simply to live happily ever after, while those who betrayed struggle with the consequences of their choices. Joel tried to contact me several times. Wanted to talk, to explain. I never responded. Some things don't need explanation. Some actions have no justification. Krista wrote too. At first angry letters about how I destroyed everything. Then pitiful requests to give her a chance. Now nothing. Silence. And I live. Work, raise children, build a new life. Without betrayal, without lies, without people who pretend to be friends while stabbing you in the back. And you know what? I'm happier now than I was during the last 3 years of my marriage. Because the worst thing about betrayal isn't the fact of betrayal itself. The worst thing is living in a lie, not knowing the truth. Now I know the truth. And I'm free. But let me tell you more about what happened after that infamous dinner party. The aftermath was something I could never have fully predicted, even with all my planning. The very next morning after the dinner, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and text messages. Some were from mutual friends expressing shock and support. Others were from Krista, alternating between rage and desperation. Joel sent exactly one message. "We need to talk." I deleted it without responding. The children were at their grandmother's house that night. I had planned that carefully. I didn't want them to witness the confrontation. When I picked them up the next day, I sat them down and had the hardest conversation of my life. "Your mom and I are going to live in different houses now," I told my daughter Emma, who was 12, and my son Marcus, who was 10. "This doesn't mean we don't love you. This is between your mom and me." Emma looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Is it because of what happened last night? Grandma told us there was a big fight." I made a mental note to have a conversation with my mother about what she shared with the kids. "Your mom made some choices that hurt our family. But she's still your mother, and you can love her. That won't change." Marcus, always the more sensitive one, asked, "Did Uncle Joel really do something bad with Mom?" The word uncle felt like a knife. "Yes, buddy. He did. And that's why he won't be around anymore." In the following weeks, the legal proceedings moved swiftly. Thomas Mackenzie was worth every penny. He presented the evidence methodically, the photographs I had taken, the credit card receipts showing hotel bookings, the text messages from Krista's old phone. The judge listened impassively as my lawyer painted a picture of systematic deception spanning 3 years. Krista's lawyer tried to argue that I had acted vindicatively by exposing the affair publicly, attempting to paint me as equally culpable for emotional distress. But Thomas shut that down quickly. My client discovered his wife of 15 years was having an affair with his best friend. He gathered evidence legally. He protected his assets legally. And yes, he chose to reveal the truth in front of their mutual friends. Perhaps unconventional, but not illegal. The humiliation my client felt discovering this betrayal, that's what we should be discussing. The property division was straightforward. The house would be sold, proceeds split 50-50. Our joint accounts were divided equally. But the separate account I had opened, that remained mine. The judge ruled that since I had transferred my own earnings before filing for divorce, and since Krista had not contributed significantly to those particular savings, they were protected. Krista fought for primary custody of the children, but the evidence of her instability during the affair worked against her. The court granted joint custody with me having primary physical custody. The kids would stay with her every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. Joel's divorce from Sarah was even messier. Sarah, it turned out, was not just angry, she was vengeful in her own right. She hired a forensic accountant who discovered that Joel had been siphoning money from their joint business account to pay for his affair. Hotel rooms, gifts for Krista, even a piece of jewelry I had never seen my wife wear. Sarah took him to the cleaners legally. She got the house, 70% of the business, and full custody of their daughter. Joel's professional reputation suffered even more. Word spread in Pittsburgh's tight-knit business community. Clients started pulling contracts. His business partners began distancing themselves. Within 6 months, his once thriving project management company was barely staying afloat. The most interesting development came about 4 months after the divorce was finalized. I was having coffee with an old colleague when I saw them, Krista and Joel, at a corner table in a downtown cafe. They weren't sitting close. They weren't smiling. They looked miserable. I realized then what I had suspected all along. Their affair had thrived on secrecy, on the thrill of the forbidden. Now that they were free to be together openly, the magic was gone. They had destroyed 2 families, lost their reputations, sacrificed everything for what? For a relationship that couldn't survive in the light of day. My colleague noticed my gaze and followed it. "Is that them?" "Yeah," I said simply. "They look unhappy. They got exactly what they deserved." As months turned into a year, I started to heal. The anger didn't disappear overnight, but it gradually transformed into something else, acceptance, maybe even pity. Not for what they did, but for how they had destroyed themselves in the process. I started dating again cautiously. Told my story honestly to anyone who asked. Most women were sympathetic. A few were wary, wondering if I had trust issues. I probably did, but I was working on them. The kids adjusted better than I expected. Emma became protective of me, sometimes too much so. Marcus struggled more with the betrayal of Uncle Joel than with his mother's actions. We went to family therapy together, and slowly we rebuilt our unit, just the three of us. Krista tried multiple times to reach out beyond the necessary co-parenting communications. She sent long emails apologizing, explaining that she had been lost and confused. She claimed that Joel had pursued her, that she had been vulnerable, that she never stopped loving me. I never responded to those emails. What could I say? That I forgave her? I didn't. That I understood? I didn't. That I wanted her back? God, no. The truth was simpler and harder. I had loved a woman who didn't exist. The Krista I thought I knew, loyal, honest, devoted, was a fiction. The real Krista was capable of lying to my face for 3 years while sleeping with my best friend. That woman was a stranger. Joel made one last attempt to contact me about 8 months after everything fell apart. He showed up at my work, looking haggard and desperate. Security called me down, asking if I wanted him removed. I went down to the lobby. Owen, please. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who had been at my wedding, who had held my children when they were born, who had sat at my dinner table hundreds of times. This man who had betrayed everything. You have 3 minutes, I said. We stepped outside. Joel immediately launched into what sounded like a rehearsed speech. I know what I did was unforgivable. I know I destroyed our friendship, your marriage, my own marriage. I hate myself every day for it. But you have to understand, it wasn't planned. It just happened. It just happened, I repeated flatly. For 3 years. It just kept happening week after week, lie after lie. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Repeatedly. Consciously. You knew what you were doing every single time. Joel's face crumpled. I've lost everything. My business is failing. Sarah won't let me see my daughter except for supervised visits. My reputation is destroyed. And Krista. He paused. It's not working out. Is that why you're here? Because it's not working out with the woman you destroyed 2 families for. No, I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. I looked at him for a long moment. You know what the worst part is, Joel? It's not that you slept with my wife. It's that you looked me in the eye, shook my hand, sat at my table, and laughed. You made me feel pathetic without me even knowing it. You took away 3 years of my life that I can never get back. I know. No, you don't. You can't. Because if you did, you would never have come here expecting. What? Forgiveness? Absolution? I can't give you that. I won't. I turned to go back inside. Owen, Joel called after me. I really did value our friendship. Once. I stopped but didn't turn around. Then you should have remembered that before you fucked my wife. That was the last time I spoke to Joel. I heard later that he sold what remained of his business and moved to another state. Starting over, apparently. I wished him neither well nor ill. I simply wished him gone. As for Krista, our interactions remained cordial but cold. We managed the co-parenting arrangement professionally. She had moved into a small apartment and was working as a substitute teacher. No school would hire her full-time after the scandal. I heard through the grapevine that she and Joel had split up after about 8 months together. The relationship that had seemed so worth destroying everything for had combusted quickly once it was their only option. Emma told me once, hesitantly, that her mother cried a lot when they stayed with her. That she talked about regrets, about mistakes, about wishing she could turn back time. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel. So subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video, there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.